Good afternoon. I'm Roanne DeStito, and I am the campus council chair, and I am very, very happy to be here. First of all, I need to thank everyone here that was involved in the search and the decision that was made to move forward and bring Wale Soboyejo to the SUNY Poly campus, because we are so happy to welcome our 7th president of SUNY Poly Institute. And please, let's give him a warm welcome right now. It's the SUNY Poly leadership, the academic leadership, the staff, the students, and everyone who came together during this search with a strategic goal in mind, and that was to bring someone to our college to be our leader and lead us into not only the 21st century, but way beyond. And we had in our officer in charge, Andy Russell, who I need to also thank, and we need to give a round of applause. Because as many of you know, it was a very difficult time in the days of SUNY Poly. But we have come a long way, and I am very pleased that at the Board of Trustees, Chancellor King, Chairman Tisch, and all the trustees were so supportive of our choice of our new president, Wale. They stood behind us. We had our Assemblywoman Button-Shawn, Senator Griffo, County Executive Pacenti, and myself, that we really articulated who we wanted and what we were looking for in a president. And boy, did we find what we needed. And without further ado, I know that he's going to really articulate his vision. I want to bring up our 7th president, Dr. Wale Soboyejo.
Wow, thank you. So first of all, I want to say, Roanne, and to the community here, it's really a great pleasure for me to be here today. I've only been here 2 weeks, but I already feel like I'm at home. I also want to use this opportunity to thank you, Roanne, and all those that were involved in the presidential search. And I have to confess, by the way, as I show this picture here, that's a delightful picture of Chancellor King, Roanne, my wife, and Rodrika, Zulaiza, who handled the search, that I really felt from the very beginning, from my trip here to the interaction with the Chancellor, that I was amongst family. And that was a big deal to me, because in many ways, what I was really looking for was a place where I could be part of a community that has similar vision and similar aspirations and similar values as myself. And I thought about those, and people have asked me this, right? Why did I leave Princeton to go to WPI and now SUNY Poly? And I think what I could say is that I found in those communities, and especially this one, communities that share similar values and similar aspirations, where I could be a team member and do something that's bigger than myself. And so I'd like to just share with you in a little bit more expanded form what this looks like. But for you to really see what this looks like, it's important to go back to where we started. And I was influenced a lot by this as I started to think about SUNY Poly. And SUNY Poly, of course, started in 1966. And it was a place that was sort of a finishing place that helped to round off the education of STEM graduates at a time when there was a need to go beyond the community colleges in the area. And so we have this area here showing the initial images of our upper division college in 1966. And what that college did was to produce graduates that went on to make major contributions in the area. And the focus on STEM in the Mohawk Valley was quite clear. And the whole approach of theory and practice really became how we distinguished ourselves as producing STEM graduates that were ready to work on day one. And you know this from the reputation that this institution has in the region and across New York State and beyond, that this was really a successful experiment that we must never forget. And then if you look at the expanding presence of our institution over time, what you find is that our aspirations have grown. We grew into the SUNY Institute of Technology, and we grew from that into SUNY Poly in subsequent decades. And as that growth has occurred to SUNY Poly, our aspirations have changed, but our foundations in theory of practice have actually remained the same. Our aspirations have changed, though, in that we now do research, we now think about ourselves as a driver of the community. And as we think about this, what we really also recognize is that we have the opportunity to be the leader in a number of areas. So one is the area of applied learning, right? And so how do you take learning and apply it to communities in ways that promote public interest and in ways that promote impact? And in all these cases, we're rising with time and increasing in potential. And you see that potential in our graduates over the last 50, 60 years, where we basically expanded our academic programs, developed a research mission, and even merged with the Center for Nanoscale Science and Engineering, and remain now still a university that produces graduates that are ready to work on day one. And by the way, this is a big deal. Not many universities do this or know how to do this. And as we look at all of what we have become, what we're really now looking at is an arena where we can build on a foundation that looks like this. And as I looked at this picture, what I see is really a picture of the Mohawk Valley and our unique location within that picture of that Mohawk Valley that already has a solid foundation that's been built over time. But I want to take you back in time to another valley. And this is the valley that is now known as Silicon Valley. And it started with the vision of one man, Fred Terman, who was at the time the Dean of Engineering at Stanford University in 1944. And he had within his team 2 postdocs that were hanging around looking for something to do. One was Hewlett and the other was Packard. And so he said, well, you guys have an interesting idea. You want to build something. And the university is going to invest in you in creating this space where you can go from a place where you've done research to a place that's going to translate this research into practice. And so Hewlett Packard was born in what actually heralded the start of Silicon Valley. And within Stanford, there were people like William Shockley doing research on semiconductors, learning how to make wafers and transistors. And without really knowing it, that interface between the academia producing people and the area around it, harnessing those people to build industry was created. I was actually born at Stanford University. I was born at Stanford Hospital, where my parents did their PhDs. And they said to me that at that time in the early 60s, that it was still fairly sleepy in that, but there were these industries springing up. There was this welcoming community that welcomed people to that place, that everybody in the world wanted to go there. Not just because of the wonderful academic standards of the university, but also because of this warm, welcoming place that really then attracted so many people. And the role of the university was, of course, catalytic in now producing what we truly see today as Silicon Valley. And so when I look at our campus in the middle of the Mohawk Valley, that's what I see. I see this campus with the foundations to become the Mohawk Valley that harnesses not only Micron Corporation, but so many of these corporations that are coming here or that are already here that need the skilled manpower and woman power that we produce here at SUNY Poly. And so as I look at this rich space, the vision that I have is 50 or 100 years from now, if we do what is expected of us as a community, not only will we elevate SUNY Poly, but really we will do everything to elevate this valley of ours into one that really transforms America and really boldly dream of this idea of the premier public polytechnic. And so it's a vision. And I'm really confident that we can achieve this because of our values. And I've taken the liberty to translate to you the way that I can characterize what I've seen of the attitudes and the values of people. If I look at all the challenges that we have faced as a community, and especially in the last 7 years, the word that comes across to me is resilience. So this is truly a resilient community that has gone through all sorts of tests, but it still remains a friendly, optimistic community in spite of all those challenges. And that resilience actually is a wonderful attribute, because without resilience, it's difficult to be robust. And then the other thing that really is clear to me, and I think it's hugely important, is this idea of community. So for me, I cannot see community, but I can feel it when it's there. And from the very first contact that I had with the people here, and I know there were a number of people who couldn't understand why I wanted to come here. But the truth was, I felt community. I felt community with the people that I was with. I felt community not just in ways that were just words. And I also, by the way, since I've been here, have experienced community with very diverse groups of students, faculty, staff, in ways that are real. And believe me, it's important. Because once you have a sense of community and once you're resilient, it goes a long way. And then the other part, which is interesting, is this idea of inclusion. And I see a community that's really inclusive of all types. But the best test of this is when you ask, for example, some students that are part of different groups. And so for the first time, in a lunch, I think, with Mark Montgomery here, I asked a few of our diverse students whether they feel included, whether they feel community with WPI. And the immediate answer is, yes, I feel included, and I feel totally a part of this community. Where else would I be having lunch with the provost and the president, all devoting their time to me, just one student? And so there are many, many things that are truly great about this community. And I say this because I know that some of the challenges of the past few years have challenged all of us. But me as an outsider, I could tell you coming in that these are wonderful values on which we can build on as we move forward into the future. Now, it was interesting because another piece of this that that also resonated with me was looking at the Chancellor's the sort of 4 pillars for the SUNY system. And I want to just go through these because, again, there was just perfect alignment, right? So what do we want to do here is we want to develop an institution that really enables student success. The students are the center of everything that we do, and their success whilst they're here and their success beyond here is of really key importance to all of us, especially in a place like this where we can take our students from different socioeconomic backgrounds and elevate them. And then the whole notion of diversity, equity, and inclusion is also interesting. We live in a community with more than 80 different groups that are located in the Utica area. So we have inherently diverse people, and we have a community that's committed to equity and inclusion in a way that's fundamental and critical for our success. And by the way, if you ever want to question this, you know, you just need to look at recent history in the past 100 or so years. And just imagine that just about 100 years ago, the leading economic and scientific power in the world was Germany. And Germany had by far the best scientists. Germany had by far the best engineers. But they didn't make their own society as inclusive as it could have been. And many of those scientists of different extraction left Germany to come to America. And I say that they came to America, by the way, at a time when America was not the second or third or fourth economic power. But they're coming here into this place where they could find diversity as a source of strength, strengthen the creation of multiple generations of Americans that have transformed American society. And so this idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion is part of how we become sustainable and successful in the future. And then the area of research is interesting. And I say research and scholarship, especially at a school like this. I would actually like to change this to research and scholarship that matters. It's not just research. It's not just working on the next sexy thing. It's working on the things that transform the lives of people, that elevate communities, that create opportunities for real development for all people, that I think is the opportunity space for us. And as we do this, we need to look at what are the niche areas where our research and scholarship matters in a way that can be transformational. And how do you see that transformation? You see it ultimately in the economic development that happens around those places where that knowledge you create and the people you create go into companies, go into all sorts of NGOs, go into all sorts of activities where they make an impact on society. And ultimately, we hope that you see this in the upward mobility of our graduates as they rise from apprentices to people working that are making an impact and eventually become leaders in ways that really show clearly the upward mobility. And so for me, the goals of the SUNY system are really perfectly aligned with the goals that we have as a community here at SUNY Poly. And by the way, just before the Chancellor held me in this way on September 12th, I did slip into his ears, I hope you're going to help us. And so this mischievous smiles on both of our faces was part of an exchange, and I can assure you, he said he was going to help us, and I think in the next few days you'll see how some of that help is beginning to happen. Now, if you look at those 4 pillars of the Chancellor for the SUNY system, and you look at the outcome from all of the strategic planning steering committee work, you actually see that the things that we're trying to do are perfectly aligned with many of the things that the Chancellor wants to happen for the SUNY system. And at this point, I want to use this opportunity to thank the Strategic Planning Committee and all of the committed campus stakeholders for the great work that they have done on the strategic plan. And I want to assure you that I see a lot of merit in the work that's been done. And what we're going to be doing in the next few days and weeks will be to harness that work, listen more carefully, and really bring all of that into a strategic planning discussion that builds on the work that's already done. Okay, so I fully respect and appreciate that work. And I could tell you that I really believe that at the end of this, we're going to do things that will really build tremendous human capital here. We're going to leverage external partnerships that are local, regional, national, and global to really increase the imprint of SUNY Poly. We have strategic investments in campus infrastructure that are going to really make us, in the areas that we focus on, truly world-class. And we're going to drive academic excellence by picking the areas, of course, that grow organically within this community, and then working in groups in ways that really increase our impact in well-defined areas. And then we're going to be proud of SUNY Poly's identity, which in my mind is something we don't speak enough about. And we need to go out there and tell people that we are in the very best science and technology institution, definitely in the East Coast, right? Take on those folks that have been there and become that premier public polytechnic that we are. And so we're going to do things to listen to the community, and we're going to act on those things. But before we do things, it's important to first of all listen. And what I find, of course, especially the biggest danger with people that come from the outside is they come doing things before they listen. That's dangerous. So for the first 100 days, what we've committed to is to listen to the community, to really understand the things that are important to the community. And then beyond that, to think carefully and prioritize, and then to execute in phases. And we've started by listening to our students. Here's some example here of student government representatives who came to the conversation not just with a laundry list of things they wanted, but with a desire to co-invest with us to find solutions to those problems. And I found that really, really refreshing and impressive and very compelling. And it turns out that we can find solutions. And we're hoping within the first 100 days, some of those will be implemented. And then listening to the staff and the faculty has also been very, very useful to me. And I think very critical to our success is that synthesis of all of these inputs in a way that allows us to begin to now frame that into strategy, and from vision to strategy to operational plans with clear tactics. So this first 100 days involves a lot. If we say we are that place where the students are the focus, then we must give primary focus, especially to listening to our students, one student at a time. We have to invest in ourselves. I find for the last 7 years, we've sacrificed a lot to the point where I think people almost doubt whether we're willing now to invest in ourselves. And the truth is, we have to invest in ourselves to create those outcomes that we're trying to drive in ways that drive the future of the institution. So we'll be touring all the facilities, really trying to get to know all the different parts of this 800-acre community. We'll be having this campus forum today, which is part of an engagement process where I hope that at the end of this, you'll have a glimpse of what the vision is for the campus and how we can all be part of that vision. And then we have to pay attention to accreditation visits. We have one going on now for our College of Business. And we will, of course, revel in our wins. Because I think that one of the things that you have to do as you struggle and work through life is take time also to celebrate and revel in the wins, just to recharge everybody and commit them to the future. And as we go through this period, that sort of smile with the SUNY Chancellor, that was a $44 million smile. And I think this is absolutely crucial. It demonstrates the commitment at the highest levels to invest in us, our infrastructure and our future. And by the way, as we do this, and there are additional investments that are being made through the Transformational Fund, through funds in research infrastructure, we really should see all of these funds not just as donations, but as investments. And they're strategic investments which if we rally around those strategic investments, we can build into future opportunity, we can build into future programs, and we can build into ways that impact our community in a way that we can drive. And we have to continue our DI programming, which I have to say, for me, really feels real. There are a lot of places they say DEI, and I just shake my head. Here, when we say DEI, it feels real. And I have to say, I want to commend Mark Montgomery and our diversity team for the way that they have managed that program. And it's in many places a point of weakness. Here at SUNY Poly, it's a point of strength. We have to get our budget right. And it's interesting going through this transition with Center for Nanoscience and how that creates differences in how we present things. But it also presents opportunities for us to think about how we strategically start investing. And we have to look at our operations and improve our student experience. In the second 30 days or so, what we want to do is to make sure we continue to invest in the SUNY team and the professional development of the SUNY team. We have to re-engage the strategic planning process with a strong focus on really coming out with clear outcomes. And we need to develop strategic partnerships that are local, regional, and beyond. And so we've been meeting with all the community colleges to build pipelines and partnerships. We're also developing partnerships with companies, with government leaders, and NGO leaders in ways that we believe we can harness and use to drive us forward. And we're bringing back events to campus. You know, one of the things that I really would like to see is the resuscitation of our first robotics activities. What you do with activities like that is you bring the next generation to campus. And what we know from all the studies that have been done is that up to 20% of STEM enrollment is associated with those kind of activities. And so we're looking to bring those back, and we're looking to bring the energy and the vitality that those bring to us, and to really have also possible venues for the Wildcat esports teams to have locations here on campus. And as we do all of this in the next sort of first 100 days, we're really looking to start thinking about what are those innovative academic centers that we can have here at SUNY Poly. We want to launch the Transformation Fund initiatives to promote access to our programs, to our support for diversity. And we want to also aggressively market SUNY Poly and brand it as that great place that is a source of pride to the Mohawk Valley community, and not that sort of hidden gem that many people currently think of us as. And as we think also establishing our budgeting process, we want to include in there the investments that we plan to make, and then also areas for sharing resources as we develop more efficient processes. And I know that many of you have asked about when the process for searching for the next provost will begin. It will begin soon. And this is an area that we know is of great importance to the faculty, to the students. And so we will be starting that process and rolling this out within the next few weeks. And then alongside that, we have all sorts of accreditation processes going on. And we're also thinking that we as an institution, if we're really a high quality STEM institution, should also have master's and PhD programs that really represent the sort of depth and strength in STEM that we have the capability of achieving. So we want to put all of this into a 5-year strategic plan. And we also want to have an enrollment plan that's intentional. Because if you look at our enrollments in the last few years, they've actually declined. We believe with all these different activities that we're talking about, our enrollments will begin to increase again in ways that we can plan to support as we go into the future. And basically, some of the things that the students have said to us are important are the ideas of having a student center come, right? And I have to tell you, I didn't go to school in America, but one of the things that I found going to school in Cambridge was the following. People didn't work all the time. Part of the thing that made that a great university was that people socialized. And during those socialization efforts, new ideas came about. There was this greater sense of belonging that came about. And there was this greater sense of being part of a creative social environment, which ultimately then made this a great university. And in the same way, I hope that these kinds of ideas, in this case from our students, really creates the sort of social spaces that enable our students to better combine their academic with the creative, with the social. And as we look at sort of the next set of goals, we want to break down silos. We want to build teams. We want to prioritize interdisciplinary research and education. And we want to initiate more fundraising strategies that really enable us to build on our endowment that's only just beginning. And I want to thank Andrea Legata and the team for the work that they've done in reaching out to many key stakeholders and for the efforts that they've done to really establish the foundation that we can build on. And we want to finalize SUNY Poly's strategic plan, which in my mind is more than half done, but we need to engage the community so that by the time we get that done, everybody here will say, yes, this is a strategic plan that we are all fully vested in. We have been consulted with on all the different components, and we're ready to roll and make this happen. So as we look at the next 100 days and beyond, what are the things that we're really looking forward to? We want to be a true industry and community partner. And I don't mean that in words. We want to really build those relationships with many of the companies, many of the government stakeholders, many of the non-governmental organizations, so that they feel that SUNY Poly is back, committed to the community, driving the community in a way that has the full ownership of this body. We want to invest in our people. We want to invest in a culture of innovation, which means not just research, but figuring out new ways of translating ideas to practice. And we want to be, in many ways, a catalyst for this community, such that the knowledge we have, the capabilities we have, the activities we have, the collaborations we have, are driving really this whole notion of Mohawk Valley as a community that is really moving into the future. And quite honestly, we need to build on our solid foundation. And the big opportunity for us is interdisciplinary. And I mean that not just for research, but also for education. Because a lot of the education that we need to offer is not just in one discipline. And I want to introduce to you the idea that many of the things that we need to do need to be demand-driven. And so if you look at the world around us today, here in this community, there's the aspiration of building advanced manufacturing. But there aren't enough people to work in advanced manufacturing, which means that the people that we educate will be the people who drive those companies, who drive those entities that make those real. And so we need to align our educational efforts in ways that matter. If you also look at where we are today, we're in this era of the fourth industrial revolution, where the new fields that are driven by digital technologies are driving the outcomes in the world around us. And so the area of the Internet of Things, the Internet of Services, the area where digital technologies are driving smart cities and smart villages, the era where digital technologies are driving manufacturing, where artificial intelligence is the key. So what that means is that if we invest in these areas, we can become the hub for AI, at least in New York State, and perhaps in the region. And to do this, we need to engage in interdisciplinary education, where every SUNY Poly student has some component of AI in their preparation. And perhaps we can do this in a way where we might even give ultimately AI degrees at the undergraduate and graduate levels in ways that support the workforce. And as we begin to do these kinds of things, you could imagine us becoming the best place in the world that's producing engineers for the 21st century that are ready to work on day one. So where do all these people come from? They come from young people that are in primary and middle and secondary schools in the region. And I see touching all of those folks as touching tomorrow. And so as we look at our outreach efforts to the community to bring kids from this region into contact with this university, what we do, although we don't realize it, is we touch tomorrow. I was the product of such an upbringing. I grew up in a university environment that inspired me from the age of 4. And that inspiration is what led me to a career in STEM, and in many ways what made me addicted to these kinds of environments of universities. So every time we bring one of those kids to our campus to participate in some sports activity, some STEM activity, some FIRST robotics activity, what we do is we inspire those students one at a time, and they can imagine nothing more than to come to SUNY Poly to complete their education. So we must touch tomorrow. We must revitalize those programs in ways that make us the center of this kind of effort. And we have to build community. And so in the work that we do in research, let's build research that matters around communities of collaborators. And I can assure you, when you do that, you get the scaling in our research impact. That's much more than what we can do as individuals. We must think about promoting our DEI in a poly community. And it's not artificial, it's real. It's one in which diverse people of all sorts of types come together and they feel, wow, this is where I belong. This is where what I do matters. And this is a place where I want to commit myself to because I just love being here. And we have to connect, of course, with industry. So we need all sorts of industry advisory groups in departments, in programs for the different schools of SUNY Poly, such that we are intimate partners with industry, where they see us as the source of the workforce they want, the ideas and innovation they want. And we work to really create this Mohawk Valley and interdisciplinary collaboration well beyond in ways that expand our imprint. So as I look at our partnerships, it's just great to see all our local partners, from community colleges to industry to high schools, and tech leaders that are really indicative of the kind of community partnerships that we want to build. But I want to emphasize that this is not just for us. This is to accelerate the development of industry, to accelerate the development of this region and bases beyond. So as I imagine then, what's our approach going forward? So as I look at you, right, one of the things that I can assure you is I can't see what's at my back, right? I can't. But I very much believe in teamwork, where there are things that I can't see that you can see, and there are things that you can see that I can't see. But when we put all of this together into a collage and we bring our ideas together, I can assure you that what you can do is you could take ideas like the ones we've described today and create a community that we already are that can transform those ideas into reality. And the one thing I pledge to you is that you have my full commitment and that of my family to move here into the Mohawk Valley and to really work with you, the SUNY Poly community, to transform our vision to life. And so with that, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, President Soboyejo. At this point, we're happy to entertain some questions that the campus community may have for the president. So if you would, we'll start with in-person questions. There are microphones on each side of the auditorium. You could step forward. We'll do 2 questions from the audience. And then with Steve Perta's help, we're going to see if we have any questions from those joining us via Zoom today. So, any questions from the audience? Don't be shy. Okay. We're a little shy here on campus today. Do we have any questions from those joining us on Zoom, online? If so, unmute yourself and...
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, we do have a question from the audience.
Hey, how's it going? Well, Javian Dawson, International Admissions Office. I just wanted to know in your 5-year strategic plan, if there was any international admissions in mind, or
Oh, definitely.
what does that look like? Could you potentially give us like maybe 3 action steps or something to kind of give us an idea of what that looks like?
Sure. You know, one of the things that we know today is that the STEM workforce is truly global. And the most rapidly growing areas of the world where that STEM workforce is growing are places in Asia, places in Africa, places in Latin America. And so many of those places, though, are not as aware of us as a place to come to. And our uniqueness in terms of what we offer. So one of the things that we will be doing is to have a very, very intentional strategic effort to reach out to those places in the world with a growing middle class and the potential to come here. And in fact, today we have a group that's visiting from Ghana, from their leading University of Science and Technology. And we've already started that process of engaging them. And by the way, this is one of the fastest growing middle classes in the world that's happening in Ghana and places like Nigeria. We're also looking at places like India, where there's a very rapidly growing group of STEM students, many of which are here. And we see the opportunity to build on the enrollment efforts that have already started in China and India and places like Vietnam, Indonesia, places in Asia. And then in Latin America, the same is true. And so we're very intentional. There are ways that you do this with professionals that help with recruiting. But one of the things you may not realize being here is that this is one of the best places you can go in terms of value for money for the kind of education that we offer. And so I think not only do we have the excellence, academic excellence, but I think we have the opportunity to leverage international as a significant component. And there are ways of reaching out to institutions that can help us deliver the message and professionals that can help us make this really happen in real time. So those are the efforts we intend to start in the near future. We've already started those discussions as well.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay,
Yes,
you have a
please.
question?
Yeah, I have a question. I am a faculty member in the Department of Biology and Chemistry, and I wonder if there is any plan to develop not only the applied research, but also basic research, especially that in the life sciences. If there is any plan for new equipment or new lab spaces or anything that would promote research in that area.
That's a good question. So I think there's no question that in the sciences, right, there's an opportunity to do basic science work that's motivated by inquiry and also need. And in my mind, probably the area of science with one of the greatest opportunities for real discovery, of course, is biology. And if you look at biology, not only do we have the opportunities for discovery, but with some of the advances in our molecular understanding of biology, a lot of the solutions to problems of cancer and disease will come from fundamental understanding in those areas. And so there will be some investments in sort of developing the biological infrastructure and the biochemical infrastructure to really understand the molecular aspects. And there will, of course, be also the investments in the sort of engineering that translates that into different applications. And so a key component, especially if you look at the medium to long-term success of an institution like ours, has to involve those strategic investments. And so this will be part of the investments in sort of healthcare and how we contribute to health sciences over time.
Thank you.
Going to give another opportunity for those joining us on Zoom. If you have a question for the president, unmute yourself and please ask.
Yes, please go ahead. I didn't hear the last part of your question. Come to the mic so I can hear you. Just please. All right, thank you.
I want to ask about the current situation of dining in the student center, if that's okay, Abio.
Okay, what is the question?
So recently they imposed a new rule about bringing book bags into the cafeteria due to theft in the area. My question is, will SUNY provide any options for students to leave their bags in a safe area? If they're stealing the Snickers bars, I want my laptop to not get stolen if I leave it outside. Personally, I feel a lot of students in the community feel like our stuff isn't really protected at the tables. And I think it's a bit more valuable than the smaller food items.
So, you know, I truly appreciate the importance of this. And what we'll do is we'll talk to the relevant people. So what I've learned with answering questions like this has been derived from my home, where very often my kids will come to me and say, there's a big problem. And then I will give a solution, and their mother's very unhappy with me. So I could do that now and upset everybody. Or what we could do more seriously will be to just check to see what's going on and why this is being done, and try to find a solution. So let's do the latter.
Okay.
So that we can come up with a real solution that's something that is truly thoughtful and responsive to your needs. But your point is well taken.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure because I feel like a lot of students in the community are feeling the same way. I just want to make sure that the issue was brought to the attention so we can maybe get something going here, you know?
No, we will. We will. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Any remaining questions for the president? In person or online? Hearing none, I have a little bit of a surprise for you, President Soboyejo. So could Andrea Legata and Roanne DeStito, our College Council Chair, please join me on the stage? All Andrea's gonna. So we understand that we missed your birthday on Friday, Wally. And so we couldn't pass on this opportunity to wish you a happy birthday. So let's give a round of applause for our new president. So we're not going to sing, but I want, unless you really want to, but I want to let everyone know there's cake on your way out. I don't think the president wants to share this one, but he would, I'm sure, but not enough to go around. Please enjoy some cake. And again, let's give a round of applause for our new president. Thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful afternoon.